You're listening to Tapestry, a podcast by a music lover for music lovers. I'm your host, Kelly. Music is a thread that weaves a course throughout our lives. Join me on a journey to unravel that thread and bring you the stories behind what inspires musicians to create. Side note, Tapestry is an uncensored podcast. Don't say I didn't warn you. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 60 of Tapestry. Today's guests are the men of Los Toms. They are based in Fort Collins, Colorado, and one could maybe describe their sound as a bit of stoner rock, psychedelia, progressive rock, and much more. They gave me lots of interesting topics of conversation, including having a very important and life-changing moment about music at a King Gizzard show. We talk a lot about King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard in this episode, actually. The various Colorado and Montana-based festivals they have explored and promoted at, lessons they've learned from making music together, using projected fractals as visual enhancement to their live performances, and plenty more. Here's a little bit of a sample from their very long, very spacey track, Science Fish. All right. Hello. Even though I've been talking to you guys for a bit now. But yeah, Los Toms. Here we are. So Los Toms, you're from Fort Collins, Colorado, and there are three of you here tonight. And usually the way I like to start these off is just to have each of you go through and introduce yourself and tell me what instrument you play so that listeners can kind of recognize your voice.
Hi, I'm Casey. I play guitar in Los Toms.
What's up, Gio? Play the drums, auxiliary, maybe bongos if you need.
I'm Nate, and I play bass and synthesizer.
And
Perfect.
we both do vocals.
All three of us do vocals.
Yeah.
Oh,
Good deal.
okay.
Good deal.
Multi-talented gentleman here, I see. Okay, excellent. Of course, less than a minute in, I'm already like burping. That's a bad sign. No, but okay. So you guys are from Fort Collins. We were talking a little bit before the cut, kind of where that's situated. You're like halfway between Cheyenne, Wyoming, and Denver, Colorado. And I know that one of the things I wanted to get to know more about your music and what you do is kind of how Fort Collins is, like what it's like to be a musician in Fort Collins. Because all I know about Denver, it's just like weed, man. That's it. So I'd love to learn more. And I'm sure it's not just that. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Casey's actually from Fort Collins, so maybe he could give the best answer about what this town.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have a pretty good idea of the Fort Collins experience. It's a big college town. The Colorado State University is in Fort Collins, and so there's a big college scene here, and the music scene for a long time has been mainly focused around like jam bands and stuff.
Okay.
And the college scene is sort of a separate thing from the music scene. But we've tried our best to sort of help bring more rock-focused music towards the college scene and help that come out and become part of the music scene here.
Bluegrass is pretty big in Fort Collins.
Oh.
You know, Cheyenne's they have Frontier Days. It's a big country kind of area, and Colorado until fairly recently was still pretty severely cowboy country.
Right.
So it's
it was always a swing state, but like there's still that dichotomy here in northern Colorado where there's the cowboy culture and the rural farmland culture, but also the city college culture. And that's always been sort of a dichotomy here in Fort Collins.
Lots of wubs. Lots of
What
wub
are-
music.
a lot of electronic music.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking,
Pretty
love, like
Pretty Lights is
dubstep.
from Fort Collins, I think.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Pretty lights, yeah.
Pretty Lights. It was
Yeah.
Fort Collins based, and that was like the previous iteration. Like at that point in time, I wasn't living here, but at that point in time, I heard that the Fort Collins music scene was pretty robust.
But no, I'm glad you said that about Pretty Lights because I'm recording here from Pittsburgh, PA, and for some reason, someone in high school told me that Pretty Lights was from Pittsburgh, so I'm really glad that's a lie.
No way.
Had no idea.
False.
Wow. Okay, fake news.
Fort
That's
Collins.
cool.
Punk is also really big here. There's a big DIY punk scene in Fort Collins. That was like really the only way heavy music had any spotlight here for a long time.
Like house shows.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
Surfside
Yeah.
7 is a big bar in Old Town, Fort Collins. That's a major scene for like punk bands.
We don't talk about that, Casey.
Gio got fired.
Oh no, I can ask you about that later, maybe. But I do want to get to the genesis of Los Toms and how you guys came to be a band. So, how long has Los Toms been a functional band now?
I started the band in 2018, and I'm the only original member left.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
it's been very. I mean, the name is just nonsense. Quite honestly, we were just drinking a lot, and I lived in like an old airplane hangar. Like it's defunct. There weren't planes or anything, but they rented it out for like $500 a month.
Oh my God!
And I could play drums there, so it was an obvious choice of habitation. There's no running water or bathroom, so there's
but you get to
there's
play
two
drums.
outlets. I had like a 120 like amp breaker, and we've had at one point we had 2 drummers. We've had 2 guitar players, and so we've gone. Gio's the third person to play drums in the band. Probably been playing the longest out of any of those players, though, as a member of the band. Casey's fairly new to the band. He's been playing for about a year and a half with us.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have some ideas to like really morph it more and add some other members, different instrumentation. So
Yeah, I could see it based on your sound because I did forget to say that. I mean, I say this in my introduction, but you guys would kind of describe yourselves as maybe like a psychedelic sludge prog rock band. I mean, that's maybe how I would describe your sound. And so to me, like when you get to that level of layering and spaciness and stuff, it kind of never hurts to add more
No.
stuff.
Less is more. Less is more when you get to that, yeah.
And more is less.
Yeah.
More, yeah, I mean, I guess you could go either way, but I mean, I'd have to ask the guitarist here and say, you can probably achieve a lot just with some smart choices on your pedal board, but
Yeah. I think essentially we're like more of at the core, Los Toms is like a groove-based band.
Psychedelic desert fuzz, dude.
And we like to play like music that makes you want to move and like rock around and stuff, but at the same time we dabble in different variations of that where it starts out very jazzy, almost like very psychedelic jams, but then we also have sludge metal songs, and so it is a very apt description.
It's like a soup. It's like a big soup.
We're very
just like whatever was in the fridge.
So Los Toms is a
wizard.
Yeah, it's bachelor's fridge, but musical. Okay, I like it. Before I get too far into more band-specific questions, I always like to get to know each of you a little bit more. So why don't each of you go into a little bit of your own musical history, like how you chose your instrument, how long you've been playing, that sort of thing?
I started in my first band with my 2 brothers. Actually, my first band was with all my brothers, so 5 of us.
Oh,
It's
wow.
called the Loins of Lions. I started playing the drums because I couldn't play anything else at the time. Well, not really play anything else. And then that ended in 4 months. And took a little hiatus. Then started a band with my two brothers. Once I moved in with them, it was called Nothing New. Played the drums also. It was like more like Beatles-esque based. Then I moved out to Colorado, joined a blues group, and then one of the drummers, we were talking about two drummers, he joined Los Toms also. That's how I actually started playing with Los Toms, because he couldn't make the night out in Denver, so I filled in. And then I'm with Los Toms now, yeah.
Where did you grow up originally? You said you moved to Colorado.
I'm from Utah.
Oh, okay, so not super duper far.
Yeah, just stayed over.
Okay, I guess maybe that would make sense why you're one of 5 brothers.
Yeah.
Okay,
Lots of wives. Lots of wives for sure.
Casey, how about you? You said you were a native, correct?
Yeah, I'm from Fort Collins. I was born here and grew up in a pretty musical household. My dad was in a band growing up. He played in a metal band from Denver called Core of the Earth. And
That's a sick name.
they were very like Melvins inspired. Heard of the Melvins. And they were really cool, and they eventually morphed into this band called Bronze. And so going to those shows kind of fostered my love for metal music, and my dad always showed me like classic guitar players that he really liked and stuff. He played guitar also. And then in middle school, I started to play guitar in music class. We had a pretty well-developed music program where I was able to dabble in all kinds of different instruments and really settled in on guitar. And I've been playing guitar for about 8 years now, and started my own band in college called Wrong Kid Died.
That's
Based
a name.
off of the Walk Hard movie, Walk Hard with Dewey Cox.
I'm like
really,
an absolute idiot when it comes to movies, so
it's
I don't
really
know the premise.
cheesy John C. Reilly.
That says
mockumentary.
everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you've ever seen Step Brothers, you would know the type of humor that you're in for.
Yeah, or like Tim and Eric or something, I guess.
Right, it's pretty
kind of.
weird,
Okay.
but it has all these celebrity cameos of different music personalities from across history. And
Nice.
yeah, that was a fun thing, but that didn't last for very long. We played like 3 shows as a band, and then I started to check out the DIY scene more, like I was talking about earlier. I went to lots of house shows. Like there was this place called Heck House in Fort Collins, which was run by my buddy Ray, and it was just his house, but he started to host shows in his basement.
Why not?
And
Heck
Los
House.
Toms played at the Heck House, and I saw Los Toms, and I was very impressed. And I was like, oh, this is actually like the type of music that I'm trying to get into here. I'm not trying to see like indie one guitar player,
Did I play there, or
like
was that Jackson?
singer-songwriter type bands. I want rock and roll. And so
Yeah.
started to talk with them and told him I play guitar too, and we eventually jammed a few times, and I filled in for a few shows as the guitar player, similar to when Gio had to fill in, and then I just kind of became part of Los Toms.
Yeah, stuff.
Nice.
Yeah,
you really
Tom's cool.
organically snuck your way in there. Like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Very
Okay.
David Gilmour.
And then Nathaniel.
I was a tuba player
Oh, hell
for
yeah.
like 8 years.
Wow.
Maybe. Since like 6, I started playing the trumpet in 5th grade, and then I switched to the tuba because I had really big lips. And
Say it's literally the opposite. It's okay. I'm a trombone player as well, so I know your struggle. I couldn't play
I
trumpet
was
if
good
I
at
wanted
it.
to.
I was very good at tuba, but I didn't want to like be a tuba player. I didn't want to like forever. It's better as a backstory.
It's good character development, I think.
Yeah. I did sousaphone and marching band, but so that's like my musical background is like concert band and marching band, bass horn section.
Great. Same. Love it.
Yeah. I was the worst at music theory in high school. My music theory class had like 8 students who were like some of the better students in the music programs. And I was at the bottom of the class. So I was still in it, but I was by far the worst. Like there were people in the class with perfect pitch, and I was like failing the dictation sections.
I'm just impressed your high school had music theory classes, because there's
Yeah,
a lot of colleges that don't have music theory classes.
Is that Cincinnati?
Yeah, I went to high school in Cincinnati,
They have
Ohio.
a great music
Which high school?
over there.
St. Xavier High School. It's an all-boys Catholic Jesuit high school.
Okay, I went to Ohio
Very
University.
repressed.
That's my alma mater, so I know a lot of Cincy people. But I was
Ohio
like,
University, like the Bobcats?
Yeah, Bobcats. Yep. I was just
so we had
this
marching
weekend.
band. I streaked through that campus as an underage boy.
Yes. Nice. Yeah, I was in the Marching 110 when I was at OU, so that's great. You played sousaphone. Oh my God! What? I don't want to derail this too far, but I can't host a podcast and not ask you how you ended up streaking through Athens, Ohio, as a kid. Like, how old were you?
I was like 17.
Oh.
I don't know. We were just riled up.
I love it.
I think like the college freshmen had shown up on campus, and like I said, we went to an all guys high school, so we were like severely repressed. So
yeah.
Late one night, jumped out a window and took off the campus, and I wouldn't do it now, but as a kid, I think it was
justified.
It was okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Probably something you want to get off your bucket list. But wow, that is such a small world. Well, when did you end up moving to Colorado then?
I moved here in 2016. So I went to college in Washington, the state of Washington, where I played drums in like a really shitty basement punk band. We drank a lot of beer, and I wasn't great at drums, but I could play them for a bit, and moved here in 2016 after that. And started working in like a kitchen and met a few guys who played music, and that's how the band was formed. It was just late night jamming in the airplane hangar back in like 2017, I guess, was really when we started playing around. And by 2018, we had like 3 guys who could show up kind of at the same time, and we started writing some pretty simple basic songs, and that's the Sticker EP with these early songs we wrote. Recorded it in like a early morning session. We were still drunk, I think, from the night before, and it's been like slowly developed into like a much more like serious thing. I think we now like approach things a little more thought out, but that's kind of how I got here. And I picked up a bass like to play in the band,
I was just going to ask you that. How did you transition from like, clearly you had a low brass rhythmic inclination and then you played drums. How did you move to bass?
It was pretty natural. I've sucked at guitar. And so the guitar to me is a little bit like 3-dimensional. You have to like think more about chords, and I just wasn't quite there with music theory yet to like be thinking about chords, but bass is a little more linear. And so it made sense to me. And then I was at a King Gizzard concert, crowd surfing, and music like clicked in my brain. And all of a sudden, like, I was like, oh, that's what my music theory teacher was talking about. That makes sense. Like, I understand music. It's a giant circle. And then it's been a lot easier I think I got better after that because it actually made sense.
Can you elaborate on this King Gizzard moment? Because I'm like picturing it in my brain. I have not seen King Giz live. I would love to see them live, but I imagine their live shows are probably insane.
Yeah, that's pretty apt. It was a pretty transcendental experience for sure. It was in a small theater, so everyone was packed in there. There were no bouncers at the front either. So the mosh pit, the whole thing was a mosh pit. The whole entire venue was a mosh pit. And everyone was like sweating LSD onto everybody. And so people were like accidentally tripping on acid that hadn't even planned on it. And so it was just like this liquid of human. and you could just climb on the stage because there were no bouncers. So
Oh, God.
people were just doing stage dives the entire show. And I got up there and did like a stage dive, and while I was crowd surfing, like I was thinking about the song they were playing and thinking about like the notes spatially, and then it just like something clicked in my brain, and I was like, oh, I understand what modal like modes are. I understand how the scales are related. I saw the whole pattern.
They teach you in music theory that notes are all in a circle pattern with each other.
Yeah.
Like
It didn't make any sense.
It's a never-ending pattern, like of octaves, where you start at like G and you go all the way through the circle back to G, but then you're either higher or lower in the note chain, and it's a strange concept and it's hard to wrap your head around. It's very
still
mathematical.
Doesn't make sense to me, dude.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. I've seen the Circle of Fits. I've talked prog
Right.
with very prog people, and I'm still like drooling when they discuss it. So I'm glad
You gotta
it
go
clicked
see
for
King
you.
Gizzard, and then it will make sense. I'm
Yes.
telling you.
Did Stan have his banana guitar at that show?
Yeah,
Do you remember?
it was the Microtonal album had just come out, and then the Murder of the Universe album had just come out. So
I love that album.
yeah, Stu was up there with the flying Microtonal banana, and they had the two drummers still.
Fuck yeah, dude.
And they're down to one drummer now, but it was insane. And it was like one of their heaviest. It was their like spoken word doom apocalypse album had just come out.
Yeah.
And so they played a lot of that stuff and the heavier microtonal stuff and then the heavy stuff from the previous albums. My friend was there and he left after 2 songs. He was like, I got the point. I got it. It's cool. I can't handle it. And he just left.
In a way, I almost like kind of respect people that will do that because they just know it's like past their limits. But I imagine at a show where there's like lots of drugs and stuff, like I think you maybe just have to be a certain kind of person to be like, I can't control anything that's happening here, and I'm okay with that. I'm just gonna enjoy the ride, you know?
Yeah. I always tell myself at that point, my body's a liquid. I've seen King Gizzard a few times, and there's a point where it's like, all right, I'm like, I just have to go with it and like fill into whatever. Because if you like try and stand still and like, this is my spot, I'm going to watch a show from, this is my girlfriend, and like, if you're one of those guys, you're just going to get like swallowed over by a bunch of sweaty kids, and so there's no hope. So you just have to like ride it out or like go to the back where it's safe.
That's such a good description, though. Like, obviously, recording this episode in the time we are, where many of us are, still not getting access to live shows or shows are getting canceled and stuff. Like that exact like liquid human thing. Like that's what I miss so much. It's just feeling like you are so interconnected with the sound and the experience that you truly like become part of it. And so, with that being said, watching a couple of your guys' music videos, all the Los Tom stuff is like, it is super spacey and groovy, but like you put all these like the light shows and the projections, and it's just like, it's way more than just a musical experience. So how did you guys start doing that? And like, how does that play into your own live show?
I think visuals and like the brain, like when you're watching music and you're seeing visuals and you listen to music, and it'll like link up and create patterns because your brain wants patterns. Like that's like the human condition is like searching for meaning in chaos. So like your brain is going to be looking for patterns, and it like pleases your brain to like create patterns. So you'll like the music and the videos like link up perfectly, like just based on like your own brain linking them up. So I prefer to play with visuals whenever possible because I think they like exponentially increase the performance, like as a spectacle.
Yeah, the audience engagement is increased to the point where they're fully invested in it.
You can't look away because like you're not just watching people play, you're like watching.
Yeah, you have more senses.
And we just did this festival, and the guy doing our visuals does like fractals, and he like,
oh yeah, is that
starts
the
messing
Endless Fest stuff?
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
we worked with him
It was
for the
insane.
first time back in March. We filmed a music video with him. He has a production company called Nerd Rat Media. Good friend of ours, Jesse Nyander, and he did visuals along with our live show. We premiered the music video at the Lyric in Fort Collins, which is a theater. And so he was projecting, he played the music video on the big screen, and then we played a show, and he projected his fractal visuals for us.
Nice.
And
So you guys are like bathing in the visuals yourselves. Like it's like not
Oh,
behind
yeah.
you. It's like
Oh,
on
yeah.
you and everything. Oh, that's awesome.
So we knew for sure that we wanted to work with him again, and he's created a whole persona for himself, J Fractal, Fractal Pterodactyl. And we knew we wanted him to help out with our set.
It's
for
pretty next level
Endless
stuff.
Fest, and he definitely stepped it up. He mapped the visuals out to all of the stage decorations so that they weren't just projecting over randomly.
Yeah.
They were all lined up to the specifications of the screen.
It's like the whole stage was crawling and like.
So like if there were like a big pair of overhead speakers like hanging at a 45-degree angle, he like knew to not make the one vortex like sit on top of that. He'd like put it behind it or so. Like, is that what you mean? Oh my God, that's insane.
Yeah, he like shaped,
do
he like
that?
cut it out and like shaped like around, like whatever the subjects were. And then he
that's
would only
cool.
project right there, on like the foreground or hit just the background and let all the stage decorations be themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's
It was
awesome.
pretty crazy.
Now,
We've been very fortunate to work with some cool visual production teams already.
Liquid Disguise was sick, dude.
Yeah, we had Liquid Disguise who does like overhead projectors with like color dye and oil.
Old school.
Like traditional Pink Floyd kind of projections.
oh, nice.
Like 60s style.
Yeah, like analog, like he's doing all that stuff like on the fly.
Right, it's all live.
Oh, that's sick. Man. So was that always part of the concept of Los Toms, or did you guys just like once you got your lineup started and you started jamming and you started to develop the sound, you're like, you know what I think would make this even more awesome is a light show.
Yeah, people will just talk to us telling us that they got really sucked into like the psychedelic nature of the Los Toms performance, and so we knew that would just enhance it if we had the opportunity to ever increase our stage presence, like
kind of just came our way too. Like we met people and people were like, "Oh, we could do this for you.
Right, we can film this video for you."
Yeah,
we met this dude in Montana, Justin, he's got a visual production called Rainbow Gorilla. And we just went to Montana to go do.
We played this festival called
yeah.
Montana, and I got this shirt.
Just beer and drug storage.
I was gonna say, since this is an audio medium, beer and drug storage is what Casey's shirt says. That's beautiful. Did you guys drive up there in your giant neon green van?
Yeah, in the bright green van.
Yeah. Yes.
Only had a minor breakdown, and this guy Justin, who we met through the festival, he like came out, met us, and we caravanned up there together. The last like couple hours of the drive through the mountains, because we were both on the verge of breaking down, so we needed to like spot each other. Mm-hmm. And then he just did all these like using like VHSs and DVDs and
he had
switches. He had all
VHS
analog
camera.
Projections going.
Oh, that's cool.
Out of his van. Out of his van onto us as we were playing off a generator in the middle of the like Bigfoot Sasquatch style woods of the Northwest.
Wow.
It was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And we just met this guy randomly, like because Casey and I were drinking at a brewery and met some blackout drunk dude who happened to be a representative of this van festival.
Right.
And he invited us there, and we
saw our van and was like, he apparently went around and asked everyone at the brewery, like, "Is that your van? Do you know whose van that is?"
Oh, nice.
And then he found us right as we were leaving. He's like, "Oh my God, is that your van?" It was pretty fortuitous.
I know both things I'm about to say are like extraordinarily cliche, but both truth is sometimes stranger than fiction, and then also like honestly, I think music is just truly the universal language. Like the fact that you guys were just there at the right place at the right time, and this dude's like, oh, bet you some sick guitar player guy drives his van. It's like, you know, here we
Right.
are. Like, I mean, I guess like a lot of times I'll ask people on my show, you know, what's your biggest advice for people trying to succeed in the music industry, and you know, what are some things you think have gotten you far in your career? And like, I always love hearing the answer to that question, but I think so many people just really feel like there's no good answer. They're like, just talk to people. You might be sitting next to the guy or the girl who launches your career. You just never know.
Yeah, it's true. Really, it's true. It's about the people you know, really.
Yeah, and in a town, yeah, in a town. Oh, you said Gio knows a lot of people.
Yeah, he's a great conversationalist. When we did our this Midwest tour, we didn't know anybody we were seeing. We were just driving to random towns in the Midwest and freaking the people out and playing our music. And Gio somehow sold like 60 T-shirts to just people at gas stations.
Wow.
People outside of the venue. He's like, "Hey, you want to buy a T-shirt? Buy a T-shirt," and he would just talk them into buying a T-shirt. You know,
that's some confidence.
I think, if you just like send it and just like do what you love and just have as much fun doing it, and like don't be afraid to like talk to people and ask people and like knock on doors. Yeah, they might not open or they might get slammed in your face, but then at the same time, sometimes they do get open. And if you just put yourself out there and like do everything with good intentions, I think like it can't really go wrong. Like the worst case scenario is like you had a good time.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
That's like great life advice. Before I ask my next question, though, I heard you say, I think twice now, you said, send it. Are you a rock climber by chance?
Yeah.
Send it.
Yeah, I grew up rock climbing. I don't know if that's where I got that from. I might have heard
more
it from
of the
skiers.
The snowboarding, skiing.
Telling me to jump.
Oh, I didn't know that's a snowboarding term. Yeah, I haven't done it in a while, like since the pandemic, but I picked up bouldering a little while ago, and I just remember being in the gym like, oh, send it, and I'm like, oh yeah, go for it. Like try your best, go for it.
It's like super outdoor bros term, I think.
Send it.
I grew up rock climbing. Though my dad was a big like '80s rock climber, big into that. Yosemite kind of guy.
The neon like shorty shorts, high socks.
Oh,
like
yeah.
80s rock climber. Okay,
I stole a lot of his old gear. Like
I could see
some
it.
of his old tank tops. I don't have any of his short shorts though, because my mom got rid of those in the early 2000s. Like when baggy pants were in, she got rid of those.
We could have had some band photos in those, dude. Come on.
I'm your style to me seems more like the big, like the pit viper, like the giant sunglasses, like you know,
like a baseball player.
Yeah. Like I feel like you could get a really good mullet.
I've always wanted to get a mullet, but then I'm like really worried because like.
Don't do it.
What if I kind of like to be able to hide. And so if I don't want to grow my bangs again. Like that was probably the most awkward stage of growing your hair out.
Don't do that. No, don't do that.
That too, like just since mullet culture is coming
Casey
back.
could do it.
People tell me all the time, rock the mustache and the mullet.
You could do it.
I'm like, yeah, but I don't want my hair to not grow back.
Start over.
I mean, you do have beautiful hair. I could see like a NASCAR driver, like if you really, really like fluff that hair up, going crazy.
Go full on Joe Dirt style.
Yes.
He looked better than me. I was born in a strange manner, and they had to pull me out with the tongs. So I got like the Squidward situation going on up here. I shaved my head for a Halloween costume. And that was the last. I'd stopped.
Never again.
I never went to the barber again.
Oh my God. Saves you a lot of money. Well, this is what happens. I start talking about 10 other things, and then I'm like, let me revisit my questions here. So Sounds like, though, really, like, moral of the story, you guys have built some of your success just from talking to people, just from being open and randomly making connections. But looking at your event calendar, it seems like a lot of the shows you've played are less so like small shows and more so big festivals. Like, did you do that Sykes Peak festival back in June? Okay.
Yeah.
And then you did the
awesome.
Montana thing and the Endless Fest, and then I know you have something else coming up this weekend, which I'll ask you about. But what is it about the festival environment that you really feel like suits your style and the experience?
I like it because there's a lot of different variations of bands that play, and so it brings a lot of like music is like about community based and like brings people together. So the more bands that play, the better. And for us too, with like Fort Collins being the music scene that it is, it definitely helps to have like some camaraderie with other bands that are kind of similar to our genre there, just to bring the people out that we want there, that actually
Right.
care about the music, I guess.
Also very inspired by events like Desert Days and like Psycho Las Vegas. These big, like,
Psycho would
more
be sick.
psychedelic, metal focused events that the music is just constant and you can go from stage to stage and get a different experience. Each person has a unique story to tell from their time at a music festival. And so
Right.
when we played this event called Burning Ban in September 2020.
2020?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
You guys are all looking at each
It
other
was
like
it was
nothing
in
happened in
smack dab in the
2020.
That was a
middle.
weird time, man. Time like that really fast.
Yeah, it was middle of the pandemic and we hadn't played any like actual venue shows, but Burning Ban was at the same grounds that Sykes Peak was held on in the Pike National Forest in southern mountain Colorado, like near Aspen area.
Okay.
Kind of.
That's like ski country, right?
Yeah.
Kind of. Okay.
And it was really cool. There was this band, Wandering Natives, who helped organize it, and we played with Plume, who was a psychedelic band from Denver. And then Plume organized Sykes Peak for, when was that, June?
That was, like June of this year.
That was June, so it was a little bit earlier. It wasn't a full year.
They wanted to get in before the burn bans because now it's like fire season. We don't have fall anymore. We're like, it's just like summer and then it's fire season and then it's winter.
Yeah.
So you have to get, if you want to go up in the mountains, you got to get it in before everything catches on fire. Like right now, Rockies aren't on fire, but they're still like, it's still too dry up there. So you have to go up early. And it's all on a generator. Shocking. That's like how, and the festival we're doing this weekend's on a generator too. And I think just
that's Gulch Fest, right?
Gulch Fest, yeah.
Okay.
It's in a gulch, and it's a fest.
Where's that held at?
It's like 45 minutes away, kind of near Greeley, yeah. We played it 2 years ago. Me and Gio did. And it's cool. But, like, I think the COVID situation kind of forced everyone outside.
Yeah,
and so being able to do, like, a generator outdoor party, like, Endless Fest wasn't off a generator, but the other 3 kind of festivals we did this summer all were generator based, and it's just like a little bit safer to get like you and your friends and go out in the middle of the woods versus like packing into like a downtown bar or something or a busy
Yeah, I think it's been pretty interesting to see the music scene like refuse to die, basically. I mean, every city and region in the country has been doing it differently, but feels like Colorado is the perfect place to move things outside.
Yeah,
go out,
we played multiple outdoor shows over the pandemic. We did an outdoor show at the Lyric where we hosted Endless Fest last November.
Endless Fest was last weekend.
Well, yeah, but not Endless Fest, but same place where Endless Fest was. We did an outdoor show there, and we Yeah, played a house show, anything that we could get. Basically, that was outdoors and socially distanced.
You got to get in Colorado. The outdoors, you got to get it in while you can.
Yeah.
Like it's not a short window, the way it might be like Montana might be a rather short window, but you've got it from like the last snowfall is usually in May or early June, so you've got about from May until really September. Like the first freezes start happening in October, so you've got between like you got June, July, August, September to like play shows, and then in the winter you have to kind of cloister back up and go inside, and it's so cold sometimes, and nobody wants to go out in the winter.
I was gonna say, I'm like, I cannot imagine trying to get people, like, pretend we aren't in a pandemic, pretend we're back to 2019, and trying to get people to trudge in their non-snow boots, like, through a city street that's covered in snow to come out to, like, some little dinky bar on a Tuesday.
No. They won't even in the summertime.
Yeah.
In the summertime, they're just like, oh, nice. Nellie's not playing? Okay. Not coming to see you.
Well,
Nelly
I do
was the
find
big hit this summer in Fort Collins.
Yeah.
They brought Nelly, and people I didn't know
he's still
were
making
Nelly
music.
fans.
I didn't think Nelly was still a thing.
Yeah.
The rapper, not Nelly Furtado.
No, I know. Like, oh my God, I almost said, wait, is it Nelly? Yeah, Nelly's the one who always had the Band-Aid on his cheek or whatever. Right? Okay, got it. Thought it was Cisco for a second, and then I'm like, no, that's the Thong Song guy. Wrong. Wow, what a weird draw. That's just unfortunate. Like you guys said, it's a college town. You'd think you'd have people who are just like, I just want to get out of the dorms. I just want to go do something. I'll go check these guys out.
They just go and drink instead.
Yeah, they drink a lot.
There's so many bars in Old Town. There's like a very big bar scene in Colorado, and Fort Collins also. Mm-hmm. So that's like the main college party scene is going out to the bars and getting super loaded.
Well, what have you guys kind of found to be your winning formula then for, for booking shows, and like, who are the types of fans you're really aiming to connect with?
We hit a lot of, I think for shows, we try and book it with other bands that are cool, like that we like, like our friends,
like friends of yours and stuff.
Music that we like to listen to,
music that we and try and like, instead of booking by a genre, we like allow our shows to be a little more dynamic, to like, because we like do that psychedelic stuff, and we do metal and sometimes a little bit of punk, but to play with like maybe like a garage or more of a punk based band, and then you create like some difference and a little more texture between the two groups to create an overall experience that's more interesting than just hearing like three punk bands back to back, which that could be your style, but I guess it's not ours. And then in terms of like the fans, I guess it's mostly people involved in the music, arts, or creative community that kind of all go out to each other's shows. Like every time you go to see like a friend's band, like King Crawdad, they play in town all the time. It's always like the same cast of characters at each show, where it's like you'll see like some of the guys in one of the hardcore bands, because everybody knows each other, and you'll see someone who like plays in maybe more of like an indie band, but everybody's there together, and so everyone kind of goes to each other's shows.
It's part of trying to build this community in this music scene here in town. It's not just about having cool bands. It's about going out to each other's shows and helping to foster that desire to want to support each other. And then they'll come to your shows if you go out of your way to support other people's bands.
Yeah, well, it doesn't sound too far off from my own local scene, and that's kind of how I like to handle it. I like the feeling of seeing the same people at different shows. I mean, you obviously want to see new faces, or else you guys aren't going to have ticket sales increasing, but like it is kind of warm and fuzzy to be like, oh yeah, I met that guy at this show, I met her at this show, and at least for me, I kind of like that. But now that you guys have these festivals under your belt, you have this other one coming up, and you're doing your part in your local scene. What is next for Los Toms musically? Other than I believe you still have the full album Totems coming out this year.
Yeah, it's still coming. I think we just got the masters back.
It's
It's been a
finalized.
process.
We just need to like finish it at this point.
I would not recommend starting to record an album right before the global pandemic happens.
So you
We were,
guys
starting-
did not start it in 2021. You started it last year.
We started recording this in at the end of 2019.
Yeah.
Oh,
We recorded
wow.
90% of the album at the end of 2019, and we were editing it, and we had to go back and record a little bit of stuff, and then the pandemic happened, and everyone kind of just went on their own, and it was really hard to bring people back. And so over the last year and a half, we've been piecing it together, but
It's there.
it's there, and we already have a bunch of new material that we're playing for shows and stuff.
Yeah, we have at least a whole another album's worth of new songs that we need to record now.
It's definitely delayed.
Do it before another pandemic. So make sure you get it done.
Yeah, don't.
That's true. I'm unsaying that. Honestly. Ugh. Before I ask more about Totems, though, I haven't asked about I am always curious when it's a band like this where everything's very vibey and open and feeling based. How do you guys write stuff? Does one of you just start something and you build from there? It almost sounds like improv, but then you take pieces of it and meld it into a song.
Yeah, it's a lot of that, of jamming and trying to remember something cool, or one of us writing a skeleton of a song or a couple of cool riffs and being hey, I wrote this, let's play it. And then we'll just sit there and kind of fuck around. And Gacy's probably the fastest at learning songs. So you show him a riff you played once or twice, and he kind of knows it.
I'm pretty good at piecing together riffs.
Yeah, Gio's pretty good drummer at going with the flow, I'd say.
Yeah.
So even though we'd be live writing a song together,
Kind of
he just
struggling
fills
with
in,
it. He's good at adjusting tempo as necessary and working with us when we're in the construction phase. And that goes on to
tough skill.
Right. Be good for improvisation also. When we're
So
jamming.
the Science Fish track, you guys did that Rogue Roomba Science Fish thing. It's almost 18 minutes long.
Yeah. It was
How
all
do
pretty
you-
much live.
So you just kind of got in a room and just were here we go.
that was
how did
kinda
that come to
night
be?
where-
it was me, Gio, and then our old guitar player as a trio playing, and we just set up recording equipment in the house and had our buddy come over and record it and film a bunch of a couple people with some cameras rolling. And the idea behind it was that we had a few riffs and a few ideas, but they weren't solid by any means. And we were just gonna jam and play and record and see what was usable at the end. And so that was 2 nights of recording, and pretty much everything usable is the album. So a lot of it wasn't great. It was a lot of weird noises and stuff, but the stuff that worked was just were the moments where we were locked in on a fourth plane, just a different connection was going on, group think kind of situation. And Science Fish, it was probably the best out of all of it. I think that it came together of just syncing up naturally, and somehow had a clean recording. That was kind of the issue, is that most of the recordings weren't clean because it was just a super loud room, really raw. And that's how our tour, when Gio joined the band, and then we went on a tour.
Yeah.
And didn't know any songs.
Feet to the fire.
Yeah, so it was basically that Centipede Sessions was what like every show was.
Oh,
We were
oh
like
my God.
had some songs and we would just play, and they would never end. They would just be like, they would
really
be like,
well,
oh, this song's about to end, and then it would just like turn into something else. And
Yeah, I mean,
it's fun.
like Gio, as a drummer and as a drummer who has like jammed with a bunch of people who are really fucking stoned while I'm not, like it's not a skill I'm great at, but like how do you in time like learn to kind of read the room musically? Like how do you go, you almost have to like molecularly communicate to everybody like, okay, the song's ending now, like I'm gonna change the dynamic, and everybody else just like kind of knows, okay, it's done. Like
I think it's just kind of like reading the room like with your ears and with your eyes and looking at people and like seeing what you think they're gonna do,
yeah,
hopefully, and what you're hoping they're gonna do. And if they don't do it, then you just have to like think really fast and do something else.
yeah.
Or you just change the beat entirely and then they follow you, you know, because you're the drummer, so you're like the backbeat of the bone, you know. Backbone
Backbone of the
Backbone of the
beat.
Beat bone.
You know,
Backbeat
backbeat of the bone.
Yeah,
That actually
somehow like I've tried it with other bands before. I've really just done like a lot of like improv and jammed with a lot of people. I mean, I've been playing since I was like 15, and like my whole family is super musical, so I guess that goes into factor with everything else also.
Yeah. That did make me think of another question, though, I've never asked on my show, to my knowledge. I don't know what you guys do as your careers, assuming it's not Los Tom related stuff, but what things have you learned from being in this band that have helped you like in your personal life or your careers?
Being a good social person, having good social skills, and learning how to strike up a conversation with strangers. I work at a grocery store, and so when I'm cashiering, that's a little bit of something that I have experience with. It's like being courteous all the time and trying to like go out of your way to compliment people and stuff, but at the same time, like when you're in a band, social skills get you a long way because people want to come up and talk to you after you're done playing, and you want to have a good image for your group. And so I think that's one thing that I've gotten a lot of good practice with is like, yeah.
I would say I've learned that it's okay to drink a lot as long as you get your stuff done, you know?
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Takes a sip of beer.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers, Gio. Go for it.
For me,
Daniel.
I do a lot of the communications and the emailing and the booking and stuff like that. And it's given me a new appreciation for like organization and communication, I think, which
Sure.
are not easy skills. I think it's pretty hard to like be an effective communicator and like just learning things like stage plots and input lists and learning how to send those out and learning how to like kind of run a campaign for like if you're releasing music or if you got a show coming up, how to like run an effective ad campaign. That's stuff that I had no idea about prior to doing all this booking. And I think outside of music, it like really helps take control of things. Yeah.
It's a big factor of like what goes into like playing music, because most people are just like, oh, like, you know, you get shows, you do this. Most people that like aren't in bands, and there's a lot more that goes into it besides the fact of like writing good songs and, you know, stage performance. There's a lot of like marketing factors that go into like getting shows that you actually want to play, playing with people that you actually want to, connecting with tour bands that are coming through your state, etc., you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I never asked that before, but I thought, well, I think it was your manager that. Oh, nice sunglasses. It was, yeah, it was your manager, I think, who had reached out to me, and like, you know, is it Joel, right?
Yeah, he's like a buddy I recruited, I guess,
Okay.
off the internet. I met him
Oh,
online.
nice.
Yeah, and he's been helping us for about the last like year and a half, just with like a lot of reaching out to like magazines and podcasts and forums and trying to get us like press positions all over the place.
Right. Yeah, he's been really professional and really good, and I mean, a lot of times I'm looking for people, and the fact that he found me and introduced me to you guys was great. So I mean, clearly it's helping. I hope you're getting your money and time's worth. It sounds like it though. Well, I always have like a signature last question that I like to get everybody's answer on. So hopefully he'll come back in at a certain point. But yeah, if you don't think he'll mind, like, you know, you guys answering about the
I can
album.
tell you a little bit about Totem.
Okay, yeah, let's hear it.
Totem is our first album with Casey on it.
Yep.
It's our first
Go Casey.
fully like studio album.
It's tracked out.
We tracked everything out. We used click tracks, which we're kind of still iffy on. I don't know if I like them. Need to have their applications, but and so it's like a much more deliberate approach to songwriting versus the first two albums, which were kind of like, let's just get something out there. And so this one was like a little more crafted with songs we've been playing pretty frequently. And it kind of, I'd say at this point, represents late 2019, early 2020 Los Toms sonically. It's got this dueling guitar, interweaving guitar aspect of and we like pan the guitars to like the left and the right so you can get like they're like their own different characters kind of. And then it's got still like really, I'd say for the most part, a fairly driving album. A lot of stoner rock elements in this one.
Yeah, less psychedelic.
The back half is pretty psychedelic, but the front half is pretty much like stoner psych rock, and then it like chills out into a groove at the end.
Well, and kind of based on the Bandcamp and like the singles you've released, I didn't write it down. I think it's Black Magic Sludge Mage or whatever that is. Like, it seems like they're a lot more story driven and a little bit less loose. So did you guys just kind of come up, you're like, I just need some cool fantasy words to throw on here?
It's
or
not
did you like
a
sit down and craft?
album.
It's not. Okay. It's just a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, that song in particular is super fantasy based, and like the music video, we're in like wizard robes and stuff and doing a ritual. I have no idea where that came from. I think we were just like playing music one day, and I like improv the lyrics, but we did start trying to get just more deliberate with our songs and like have transitions like that we go like deliberate transitions and like kind of curtail some of the jamming noise,
the unpredictability of our sound.
And like so like Totem, which is the title track for that album, is like really kind of Sabbathy riff based, and it's got like riffs switching to other riffs kind of style, which I think just represents like our music ability getting a little bit better. Like when we started playing in the band, and Casey and Gio weren't in the band at that point, so this is mostly a reflection of where I was coming from, but we sounded pretty bad when we first started playing. And to get to where we are now, like, required a significant degree of tightening up of like our playing and our songwriting. And so between Totem and like what we're writing now, it really is like a bridge between, I guess, like the Centipede style, which was just raw improv, and then kind of the way we're writing songs now, which are like almost shorter songs. We don't have as many like 12-minute songs on like the next album after Totem, like the stuff we're writing now.
Would you say that like really the new direction is just like music that has kind of benefited from focus?
Yeah, focus and like premeditation,
right? Careful attention and trying to make it sound the best that it can possibly sound by putting in the work.
It's just a little less masturbatory, you know. Like that's kind of how the endless like guitar solos, 18-minute tracks can come off, and you know is like, all right, we get it, you can play.
It's very indulgent.
Yeah, so we want to give something that's a little more like boxed up and like presented as like an item instead of just like spewing, and that way we can still like choose when to indulge and like make it and choose to make that a deliberate choice. And I think that's a little like as a person seeing a show, that's a little bit more what I would like to witness as an audience member, is to be like have like a package to like when a band's tight and they play tight and like everything flows well. It's like the whole performance is like a coherent piece.
Right. It's easy to get into this mindset where like, oh, these songs are really fun to play, people will love them. But if it's just like a really long going off the rails guitar solo for 8 minutes or whatever, people will lose interest. People will be like, oh, these guys are like, you have to be really into that kind of music, like doom, psychedelic, rock, to lock into that as a fan a lot of the time. So at the same time, we're broadening our musical horizons so that people will hopefully find a new audience in some way.
Play a lot of different genres. I'd say we're starting to get more depth. We always had a wide breadth, but now we're starting to get more depth into the different areas that we play in.
Right. It's easy to be a jack of all trades, but then you have to then focus in on like the skills that you really want to be.
Right. Yeah, because you can't. It's like you aren't gonna reach the audience you need to if you're the everyman's band, kind of like, you know. This is a more generic question, but I realized I hadn't asked it. What are some philosophies that each of you kind of have on how and why you create music? I know it's very open ended.
I don't know. At the end of the day, I kind of just like to create music for me. Because like, why else are you doing it? Are you doing it for other people? Because that's not gonna bring you any joy or happiness. You're always gonna be ended in like, you know, unfulfillment. And so, I mean, at the end of the day, you have to do it for yourself, whether it makes anybody else happy or not.
Yeah, I've always been of the philosophy that I want to play the music that I like to listen to, and that's the type of songs that I want to write, is like music that I think is good, and not trying to be like elitist about it or anything, but there's definitely a lot of interpretation there, and so just want to put out music that I'm happy with and that I think is good art.
For me, music is like one of the ways to lock into flow, like state mentality, and just be like present. it's kind of like a magic ritual almost to like get out of my own head and like just get to be. And like when we're locked into like a really good jam or something, it just like there's no sense for me. There's no sense of self. So I think deep down, that's probably like my greatest philosophical purpose for music. And then beyond that, I really like the challenge of it. I think like music is really challenging, and it can be simple and it can be as difficult and complicated as like conceivable. Like once you get into the really heady music theory stuff, like you can really fuck your brain up, and it's like it's almost like music itself is infinite, and so it will always be like a lifelong endeavor to try and understand it. And something about that like impossible challenge, but also like great adventure of it is really alluring for me.
I like that answer a lot. The great adventure is definitely like one of the more satisfying parts of it, I guess. I'm going to drop a question on you guys that I don't ask very often, but if you can remember the name of it or whatever, what's the best song you've listened to in the last week?
Iron
or
Maiden
in a while.
just released their new album. What's it? The Writing on the Wall is a really good new Iron Maiden song that just came out.
I have to say I'm a notorious Iron Maiden disliker only because of Bruce, but the rest of the band's great. I'm not into the power metally vocals, but I'm just glad they're still writing music after freaking forever. Good for them.
For sure.
Good for them.
I can't remember the name. We just dropped a new song though.
You're like, Los Toms. Oh wait,
A.
no, I thought you said we.
Weed.
You meant Weed, the band. I was like, cool, Los Toms, new song.
Weed with 3 E's.
If you haven't heard of them, you should check them out. They're great.
I think they're out of Portland. They're awesome.
They're
Weed
super
with
great.
3 D's.
3 E's. Weed.
Weed. Okay, I will check out Weed.
They had a whole album just come out and they put it out, but I've been listening to. What did I listen to? I've been really busy this week, so I haven't listened to a lot of music. But I listened to one of the more recent King Gizzard albums.
They always release like 5 a year or some shit. Like
they're pretty prolific.
I would say Butterfly 3000 has been on spin the most, like around the house.
They have a song, and this is controversial in the King Gizzard community, according to like the like polls I see online. But one of their new songs on their album is called 2.02 Killer Year. And it's like a spin on the apocalypse. It's like, it's the end of the world. The weather's all fucked up. There's giant tsunami waves coming. But then they spin it into a positive take at the end. And they're like, let's go get our surfboards and rip this giant wave. And it's like really satirical, but it's like the music is so light and like chill.
Mm-hmm.
And like the lyrical content's really dark. And I like that. Juxtaposition. And I like that song a lot because it's gonna drown everyone, and I like to sing that line because it's like it's gonna drown everyone. It's like all major. And you're like,
I haven't heard the new stuff yet, and I need to. I just know like when people ask me, they're like, "Oh, have you heard that band King Gizzard?" I was like, "Yeah." I said, "What other band could write like a whole album about like a giant vomiting robot and make it sound so good? Like nobody else could do that."
I love that album.
Great album. Before I ask you a couple other things about your favorite albums, possibly, is there anything else you want to mention about Los Toms, about what you guys are doing next, about the new album, anything that I haven't asked you about that you want to get out there?
I'd say if there's anybody out there that wants to play a show with us, if you're into like psychedelic music or like heavy metal or like stoner music or like weird experimental noise music, just like shoot us a message because we've got a van and we got to replace a water pump and a thermostat still. But once we do that, we're like down to go anywhere and play with anyone all the time. So
Nice.
that's my shout out is like, we're always looking for cool people who want to play, and it can be like under a bridge, it can be in a house, it can be in a venue, like it could be on an island. If we do it in a submarine, that'd be cool, but I don't know if we can do that. So
That'd be sick.
Yeah, it might be hard to get a generator down there.
We talked about Gulch Fest already. That's the next thing for us. Then we're playing down in Denver later this month, 23rd, at the High Dive, which is a bar.
My favorite Denver venue.
It's really cool.
Pretty sick.
It's really intimate. I saw Kikagaku Moyo there, Japanese psychedelic band. And
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, I mean, right up front.
I wasn't tripping, but I felt like I was tripping.
Do you guys listen to Riley Walker? I know Riley Walker did that split with Kikagaku Moyo, and
I've
I was
only
just
listened
like,
to the split.
oh my god, I was like, how have I only discovered that guy like a little while ago, and oh my god, it's so good. I'm not hugely into psych music, but like I'm getting there, and it's so good.
Nice.
The Pour Dampness Down the Sink or something, Pour the Dampness Down the Sink, I think is one of the songs off their split that they did. That was all recorded live between like both of their bands. It was like an 11-person live jam.
Oh my god!
Recording when they were doing a little tour together.
Wow. Yeah, I'd have to do some more research on that. That's so interesting. Yeah, I have. Well, maybe I should just ask you guys while you're here. Like, if you're new to psychedelic music and you like stuff like Kikagaku Moyo or King Gizzard, who else would you recommend?
Weed for sure.
Weed with three E's. Okay.
With 3 E's.
Frankie and the Witch
Fingers, the Black Angels.
Yeah. The OCs.
OCs for sure.
OCs.
Lightning Bolt. Check out Lightning Bolt.
Lightning Bolt's pretty good. I'd say if you go and you look up any of the bills for any of the Desert Days events, every artist Desert Days has had that I've seen, every year that I've gone, every band's been great.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's how I find a lot of new music is through those guys, and then I see who they're playing music with. And
that's the way I hadn't thought of, actually, so.
They put Space Agency booking, I think, is part of the people behind that, and they've got a pretty good roster of people. Tropa Magica is really good off of that.
Really good.
If you like jazz and like kind of chill, laid back stuff, Crumb.
I do. Crumb.
Big Crumb fan. We saw them.
Crumb. Okay.
Yeah, they're sick.
Yeah.
I'm very good at giving music recommendations, and it never occurs to me to just ask for them in like genre areas where I'm a little weaker. Psychedelic rock is definitely not like my wheelhouse, so I have a whole list of things to try now. Okay, so nothing else on Totem. All good. So I only asked because I have my last and final question for you guys. Then, if you have nothing else to add, all good. Okay, so. If each of you could answer, if you could only listen to 3 albums for the rest of your life, what would they be and why?
I don't know if I can answer that one.
I think I would put Polygon Dwanaland by King Gizzard because I think it's the most intricate and like kind of magnum opus that they got. And it's from start to finish, it's a great album. That's the only one I can say with certainty right out of the gate.
I don't even think that's an answerable question for me because, like, it depends on my mood of the day. Like,
yep, a lot of people have said that. Yeah,
I might as well just sing to myself at that point.
Right.
That's the most creative answer I've had to that, I think.
Yeah, the sticker EP.
That should not be on anyone's dying list.
Number 1 for me is probably going to be Crack the Sky by Mastodon.
Mastodon, yes.
big Mastodon fan over here.
Yeah.
Big
What
Mastodon
what
fan.
era? What era of Mastodon? Like Leviathan,
Probably Blood
Crack the
Mountain is
Sky?
my
Yeah,
all-time favorite, but I think Crack the Sky
Finally!
is their opus.
So many people hate like Blood Mountain and that era. I love that era of
Right,
Mastodon. I
that's
even
the-
liked The Hunter. The Hunter was a good album.
I love all of their albums. Yeah, Once
Yeah.
More Around the Sun, sick too.
I think I might take Crosby, Stills, and Nash, the self-titled album, and before they had Neil Young, when they're sitting on
Okay.
the couch on the cover, that might be on my top 3.
God damn you. Neil Young's great, dude.
Neil Young's good, but he kind of had a dominating presence in the band once he joined. And Deja Vu's a good album, but I also have like a lot of nostalgia with that one in particular. I listened to that album a lot while driving around in 2000 something.
My second choice would be Age of Winters by The Sword.
Oh yeah, I forget. Are those guys from the Denver-ish area too?
They're from Austin, Texas.
Oh, okay. I've seen them live. They're always really fun live.
They're so good.
Never seen them.
Yeah.
We're trying to open for him. Casey's
you
dad
guys would-
opened for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell your dad to hook it up, dude.
You and your dad are like competing, like you. Well, you
Well,
can't ever say you've opened for the
Sorry, Dad,
Sword,
you
have you?
Feature on a song. And then
Right.
Love
You
it
should play
for
for-
He can
Oh,
relive his
use that
story,
use
dude.
that networking. Get Geo talking some stuff up and make it happen.
What's that?
I'm just saying, get Geo to talk his way into that situation occurring. I would love
Right.
really, really love to know that you guys have gotten to open for the Sword. That would be great.
Yeah, it's too hard. Too hard of a question.
Well, Casey has a third album. Actually, yeah, Casey and Nathaniel both
Yeah,
have
I'm
third
still
album.
thinking.
Come up.
I'm still thinking.
Maybe like Dark Side of the Moon.
That was one of my.
I could listen to that one.
I really like Ummagumma, but it wouldn't be on my list.
Then Chocolate and Cheese by Ween.
Oh,
would be
yeah.
my third
That
choice.
good
Oh.
Swiss Club, dude.
That's not on there.
Is it
It's
not?
not.
What?
That's Shinola Sessions.
Oh, fuck. Okay. Okay.
Third album.
Thinking.
It would have to be something pretty lightning. It might be Not a Gun. It might be a second King Gizzard album.
Another King
I
Giz
just really
album.
like
Why
it.
not? You know.
Not a Gun Infinity is pretty sick. And like it was a good album to snowboard to. And it's infinite, you know, so if you're stuck forever listening to the same thing, it might as well be an infinite album.
Yeah.
That's very
You
true.
can shuffle it and it all works together, allegedly.
I will say, well, it's like 9:00 my time, so maybe not tonight, but like I need to go into King Giz revisitation mode because their catalog is just so huge. It's so varied. It's so interesting and fun, and I just like never dedicate enough time listening to them. But you guys have inspired me. So
Take a few days.
Yeah.
yeah, it'll take a while. Right. Well, guys, thank you for sharing your thoughts. Thank you for letting me into the Los Toms world. And I hope the Gulch Fest stuff goes well this weekend. And I don't think you mentioned it, though. Do you have an official release date for the new album?
Not
We
yet.
do not.
No.
Okay. So more of a general, stay tuned. It'll be coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll probably,
Maybe we'll do it on like Christmas. Eve.
yeah, it'll be towards the end of 2021. Or it's
Okay.
got to be 2021, though.
Yeah.
That's
Definitely
fair.
2020, 21.
We'll
Okay,
just
well,
release
good.
it as a
2021.
Christmas album, and then people will be like, "Whoa."
This was not what I was promised.
There we
Okay,
go.
no, that's good.
Just
Well,
not
I'm curious to hear the new sound now that I've learned more about you guys. And yeah, again, thank you for sharing your time. I appreciated everything.
Yeah, thank you
Thanks
so
to
much.
you.
All right, keep it cool out there. Hope you guys enjoyed my interview with Los Toms. At the time of publishing this interview, they've already hopefully had a great performance at Gulch Fest and some other places, but in general, I have a feeling they're going to be doing a lot more things, and we also need to keep our ears out for the upcoming album, Totem. So you can follow them on Instagram at instagram.com/Los Toms. Just search for Los Toms, LOSTOMS, and on Facebook under Los Toms Music. Go give them a listen, and as always, thanks for listening.